Hi, it's Shocker. I'm back with another patch overview, so let's jump in. First, we'll be going over gear score brackets. Patch 77 removed brackets 0 through 24 and 125 through 224. This patch reverted that change. As you can see, the brackets are back for both norms and HR. The HR and Arena ranked Season 5 is now live, and Iron Mace continues to work on the MMR bugs with Arena. I'm super happy that they reverted the gear score brackets, especially the 0 through 24. We've played without this bracket before, and it turned into a complete rat fest of everybody just ratting around, skittishly going in with quarterstaff entry fees, just so they don't have to deal with artifact BIS players, because you never know who you're going to run into. These brackets really create a more healthy experience, especially considering that the season is now live and people will be trying to get to Demigod. Trying to get to Demigod where the score is anywhere from 125 to infinity is really tricky and adds a lot more luck into the grind than I think people want. I hope they keep fixing Arena, because Arena is now an actual ranked mode with possible rewards attached to it. So they better get this right. Maps and PvE. Crypts is getting more randomized layouts. My suspicion was always that even though module randomization is random, there is only a finite number of layouts that can exist, and therefore there is a non-infinite number of layouts possible each time. I suspect this is adding more to that library of randomized layouts, and I don't think this is adding any new modules to the game. More randomization I think is good. I think there's sometimes maps where there's only red downs and barely any blues, and sometimes just a ton of blues back to back. So just having more randomization to kind of even things out I think would be nice. I hope that's what they're working on. Harpies sometimes would just stay put and not readjust to your level if you move down, say an incline, making it kind of difficult to fight them, and they would attack you even if they can't hit you. Demon bats now shouldn't get stuck over your head and out of melee range. Especially nightmares attack so quickly that they can get stuck above you, making it impossible for them to hit you and make it really difficult to melee them from below. So hopefully these changes fix that and improve PvE. The wheel tends to be a place for people to PvP and to look for new rooms and to gain access to quickly traverse the crypts. Hopefully if the loot is now better in the middle, the wheel will be more of a place of contestation. Class changes. The nerf that people have been talking about is now live. The Shapeshift will now have charges. Each charge takes 6 seconds to recharge, and you can stack up to a maximum of 4 charges ready to go for quick shapeshifts. I've talked to many of my friends that I play with about what they should do with Druid. My suggestion has always been to add a cooldown to each form so that you can't go back and forth between 2 forms over and over very quickly, but that you can keep changing between different forms still somewhat rapidly. I think this is a totally fair change. Still being able to switch 4 times in a row with no downside, and then that taking about maybe 3 or so seconds, having 3 seconds before you can change again, allows you to still make the Druid plays that everyone who mains Druid is used to, but will not allow you to make those particular plays back to back to back to back over and over and over again, giving Druids some downtime when they're vulnerable, which I think is extremely fair. It's a massive nerf, but it's extremely fair and much needed. This is the right way to go about this. It's not, you shouldn't make Shapeshift Mastery not instantaneous. I think Instant Transform is really cool. Speaking of Shapeshift instantly, Druid technically got a buff where Shapeshift cast time without Shapeshift Mastery is going from 1 second to 0.5 seconds, which is really nice. I don't see a world in which you don't take Life Bloom Aura, but you also don't take Shapeshift Mastery. But this does mean you can not take Shapeshift Mastery and it might not be that terrible. Again, I don't think this buff really makes much difference other than making maybe new players trying out the class have a more fluid experience trying shapeshifting. Alright, Warlock. Warlock has been doing quite fine and staying right behind the fighter barbarian in line for the guillotine. And it looks like Warlock is doing just fine because grant +1 all per stack. So if you run darkness shards, you can just have +5 all for the whole game, which is insane. This is massive. And people who want to run Kuma's Fang, who don't want to spend the stacks, now just get a plus all for nothing, just for free. This is absurdly strong. This means you're basically getting Blood Pacts plus all without needing to use Blood Pact. So you now have Blood Pacts plus all at all times without using Demon Form. This is just an absolutely wild buff. Considering there are some builds out there that have been surfacing that utilize Darkness Shards to create tons of burst for Warlock, I feel like this is going to get reverted or changed. But we'll see. Warlock also got another buff where Spell Predation now deals 3 dark magic damage per buff removed. So let's say you hit a Cleric or a Bard who might have 4 buffs running. That's 12 dark magic damage on top of removing all the buffs. A rather minor buff. It makes Spell Predation a little bit more powerful, but honestly still a situational spell. I mean, with Sorcerer out and Sorcerer liking to buff themselves as they go in, this might just be another way to deal with Sorcerers. I could see Spell Predation actually getting more use as people figure out that if the Sorcerer isn't a run and gun and they're an all-in with Glaciate Stone Skin and Lightning Sphere. Technically, Lightning Sphere is a buff, so you could remove Lightning Sphere with Spell Predation. I could see Spell Predation get a little bit more popularity here. After a second look, Spell Predation grants you Darkness Shards. So it's just another thing that feeds into Soul Collector, granting the +1 all. Sorcerer. Manifold movement speed penalty has been removed. I've been talking to Storm about this, how Manifold should not have a movement speed penalty, how it makes no thematic sense whatsoever, and they finally do it. They fix it. They got rid of the movement penalty. Now Manifold grants you 25% cooldown from the base calculation, and makes your cast time minus 15% speed. So you cast 15% slower. Now Manifold is actually viable. You could take it. If you're trying to run and gun, you no longer are going to take 2 perks, which was really sad. It was really frustrating. It used to be if you wanted run and gun, you don't take Spell Sculpting because it increases cooldowns, and you don't take Manifold because it slows down your speed. In run and gun, you want move speed. You'd never want to trade move speed for cooldowns. So you were stuck with 2 perks. Now with Manifold, you can at least run 3 perks. You can utilize more perk slots as you play. And you can also take Spell Sculpting without having to deal with a move speed penalty. So thank God for this. I'm super happy they did this. Suppressed Sorcery can be repositioned and removed. So this is a buff as well. You can technically now take out Suppressed Sorcery and just leave it open. Technically, you can just leave this slot open and it will do the exact same thing that Suppressed Sorcery does. But maybe having it there visually kind of makes it a little easier and people might be used to these things. So I think not getting rid of them completely is a good idea. Otherwise, people would be confused, like, how do I not cast? The other thing is, if you are playing with Longsword, you can go 10 spell and just use your Longsword, because you can't cast with the Longsword because it doesn't categorize as magic stuff. So you could go 10 spell Sorcerer now and bring a Longsword, and whenever you switch to the Longsword, you won't have to deal with the fact that your spells are selected the way they are. So both of these buffs are bigger than they look on paper. I'm really happy about this because Sorcerer has been feeling a little weak. I really think it hasn't been that strong as of late. All right, Ranger. Spear Proficiency provides now 5 physical power, so 2 less from before. It's a slight padding down to kind of encourage Rangers to mostly focus on their bow damage, which is kind of funny because the meta has been crossbows and windlasses lately, so I'm not sure what this is really doing to impact that, which it's doing nothing. That's spoiler alert. Ranger's Purge Shot is the new skill that, as I said, was very niche and would only see play in a very heavily buff focused and buff ball, I guess, meta, which I honestly, Trios is definitely like that sometimes. I didn't see Purge Shot seeing too much play at the moment, so it looks like they decided to buff it. Now instead of removing 1 buff on hit, it removes all buffs on hit and deals 15 true physical damage if it removes buffs. I hope this is if it removes buffs, because if they mess this up, Purge Shot is just giving you 15 true damage per shot for 8 seconds, which is bonkers insane. So hopefully that's not the case. I almost wonder if they added this 15 and didn't add the all buffs removed, would that actually make this even stronger? Because then if they still have more buffs left, every shot would just deal 15 extra true damage, which would be completely insane as well. So I guess this is a fair way to rework the skill. And Purge Shot now has an 18-second cooldown instead of a 28-second cooldown, which is kind of insane. This makes this actually quite strong. I could see this being a way to pad down the cleric hidden OP that exists right now. And if a cleric with judgment is coming at you, and you would get 15 extra damage and they get no more buffs, and then you get to fight them. I could see this being very nice. I can't see anyone really keeping their buffs up against someone with a Purge Shot. More changes. Crafting has been buffed. Damage per shot for 8 seconds, which is bonkers insane. So hopefully that's not the case. I almost wonder if they added this 15 and didn't add the all buffs removed, would that actually make this even stronger? Because then if they still have more buffs left, every shot would just deal 15 extra true damage, which would be completely insane as well. So I guess this is a fair way to rework the skill. And Purge Shot now has an 18-second cooldown instead of a 28-second cooldown, which is kind of insane. This makes this actually quite strong. I could see this being a way to pad down the cleric hidden OP that exists right now. And if a cleric with judgment is coming at you, and you would get 15 extra damage and they get no more buffs, and then you get to fight them. I could see this being very nice. I can't see anyone really keeping their buffs up against someone with a Purge Shot. More changes. Crafting has been buffed. You can now endlessly craft lockpicks, Francescas, and throwing knives. You don't have to change characters every time you want to craft more lockpicks, Francescas, and throwing knives. This does require iron ingots to do. If you want to just use gold to buy these items, you will use up the item and you would have to go to another character to buy more. Whereas when it comes to crafting, you can craft infinitely. Here's a massive buff to crafting. Alchemist now gives you 3 times more potions when crafting and upgrading potions, with the recipes staying unchanged. I think this is an oversight because now you can, for example, use 1 rare health potion and 3 leaf potion and 3 life leaves to create 3 epic health potions. I think they forgot to change the recipe to have 3 pots in there and life leaves, but maybe not. Maybe they want higher tier potions to be more accessible, which I'm all for that. So hopefully that's not an oversight. If it is, I imagine that they will change the recipes because they only changed what the alchemist gives you when you craft, not the recipes that it requires. So you still only need one health potion to create the better health potions with the life leaves, for example. And this also impacts clarity pots, which makes clarity pots way easier to get and way cheaper to make, which might make clarity pots more popular as well, which honestly, I never see anyone using clarity pots ever. So this might help. The sash item and slot. It's a decoration slot because when you go to the shop, you'll see it says decoration. So the tailor now sells sashes, which are ribbons that can help identify, for example, your teammates. If your entire team wears all white ribbons, then it might be easy to identify your teammates, even if you don't see their names, because you might be really close to them and you're less likely to mistake your teammates and hit them on accident. This is definitely a Temmie upgrade. I think they might add more decorations, hopefully. I imagine that maybe the rewards for the season might have something to do with a decoration skin. Maybe the sashes get a skin for demigod or something. I could see that happening because they tend to, with demigod rewards, give you something super new and not give you a skin for something that already exists. They usually add a whole new cosmetic category and then give you rewards for that new category with every demigod reward and season. I think this is fantastic. I think this is really cool. More expression and more ways to use these cosmetics would be great. I heard that this might have something to do with the religions. Hopefully this won't take away from being able to just put on whatever you want. I hope you get to just put on whatever you want at any time. Hidden changes. So luck pots have been sitting at 68 gold for a long time, and some people noticed, some people didn't notice. They usually cost 150 gold, and the 68 gold is the price if you have been keeping up with quests with the fortune teller. Now, if you look at your price, the price of luck pots is now back to the prices we saw last season at 135 per pod. Rest in peace, cheap luck pots. And this is honestly just in time for the season, so a little bit unfortunate, but is what it is. Of course, the luck they give you is unchanged. Another hidden change is the stash equipment. The glove slot has been moved down to match the boots slot. So feet and gloves are on the same tier now. It was moved to make room for the sash and decoration slot at the top. So if you get confused when going in your stash, that's what they changed. And that's it. So to summarize, really happy with the bracket changes and happy they did it right as the season starts. I'm glad they fixed the harpies and the demon bats because that was definitely frustrating. Wheel might see a little bit more congestion rather than just people running through the wheel to get to other modules. I think the Druid Shapeshift changes are the perfect way to keep the theme and playstyle of Druid while making sure that Shapeshift has downtime when Druid is vulnerable, making fighting Druid feel a bit more fair and strategic. Warlock is going for the moon, so I'm definitely spamming this for HR right now. Sorcerer is getting much needed buffs. Manifold is on the table now. Ranger is definitely slotting into being a counter to buff ball in trios. Really nice quality of life upgrades to crafting. I love the sash upgrade. Sad about the luck pot and the stash. I guess we'll get used to that. But I do like it. And that's it. If you found this helpful, like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to get notified when I post the next patch overview. See you in the dungeon.